Welcome back to review 1984. Just like I said last time, this chapter is it's the eighth chapter, and it's the last chapter in part one. And I think I saw somewhere that there's three parts of the book, but that was between me saying that last time and just realizing this now. But yeah, there's three parts to the book, I'm pretty sure, and this is the ending of part one. I thought this was going to be a slow chapter because when I started reading it, I was like, this all seems so useless. I don't know what to take notes on. I don't know what's going to be important in this chapter. But then as it went on, I was like, yeah, there was not like a wasted line. Because even if it seemed like something small, it was used as a plot point, at least somewhat. And it was, it left on a cliffhanger. Kinda. It was kind of a cliffhanger, kind of not a cliffhanger, but it leaves you wondering if something bad's about to happen to him, and I'll get to that by the end of this video. Essentially, okay. Firstly, the first thing I want to say is we're introduced to a new word in Newspeak, and this is own life, and it describes what Winston's essentially doing all this chapter. And own life is a term that's used especially towards party members, so people who work for the government, and it basically means that they have their own life. And at the beginning of the book, it makes a big not of the book of the chapter, it makes a big like a big fuss about him having hold on. Yeah, it makes a big fuss about him having his own life, like doing something not in the company of another party member, because apparently they spend like 99% of their day with other people, and the only time that they aren't with other people from the party is when they're going to sleep at the end of the day. So he's out on a walk. He said he walked around like 7 kilometers, some area, and he was like just going all around the city, and he ends up in the Proles district. Remember how last time I was talking about how Winston was saying that the only hope for any change is within the proles, and I thought he was gonna get that in this chapter, but he seemed to fail last minute. It was like I've never, I mean not never, but it's been like such a long time since I've had like the feeling of I'm just imagining what's happening in the book as if I'm just watching a TV show as I'm reading. I was reading that page at blitz speed about what was happening. But yeah, so he goes into the prole area, and then there is like some bomb that went off, and apparently like the proles have like some sort of like instinct that's not really elaborated on, but they always somehow know that a bomb or a rocket's coming, and then there was like a big rocket, made a huge scene. Also, um they also says that it's unlikely for you to see many blue overalls in the prole district or that type of area, because the blue overall signifies party membership, and that was one thing. And he didn't want that to be like so known, or he didn't want many people to see him because he didn't want to get caught by the patrols. So when the bomb thing happened, he was like, oh, it's a perfect time for me to just escape this cluttered area, busy areas, to get to somewhere that it's more secluded. And then he finds a pub, and the narrator, I guess, or the chapter, it just explains how the one of the only things that the proles pay attention to of the outside world, aside from all the work that they do, is the lottery. Like he sees a bunch of them in the pub gathered around one guy reading the newspaper. He thought it was like some super important story, but then it turns out they were just arguing over like lottery numbers and saying, "Yeah, you'll never have a winning number that ends in 7 because there's never been that before." And somehow they like memorize them all. And that's the one thing that they're also invested in, and apparently not super surprisingly, the whole lottery thing's a scam anyways, because the most of the winners are people who don't even exist, and because each region of Oceania is so separated and they don't really interact with each other, it's hard to really know if that person actually existed or not. But only the people in the Ministry of Plenty who facilitate um the lottery know that, and they're all aware of it. They're all aware of it being a scam. And then later on, he ends up in the area where he had bought his stationery items. So that being his diary and his pen and his ink and all that. And then he sees an old prol member, or like proletariat person, like really old, not just like not like 60s or something, but like old, 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 walk into a rundown looking pub that was nearby. And then he was thinking like, oh, I can question him. He probably remembers what life was like before. Not only is he older, but he's a pro, so the government is not so strict on what they can do because they don't have much interest in society anyways. So it was his hope that that man might know something about what life was like, or at least to confirm if life was actually as bad as the history books say. And yeah, apparently there's like not that many old people within the society right now, because either they're, well, eliminated, they've been eliminated, or they're scared. Yeah, so either they're eliminated or they're scared to speak out or say anything. So essentially they don't matter to the government because they're not going to say anything anyways. They're going to be ignored until I guess until they die. And what's it called? Once he goes into the pub, he just makes sure at first that there's no telescreens, because they normally don't have any telescreens in the pro areas. Most of them aren't big on that type of technology anyways, but he just checked to make sure. And then he sees that the old man is arguing with the bartender, and this is what he uses as like, excuse me, a way to enter into a conversation about the past with the old man. The old man was arguing about the bartender being inept at his job because he doesn't know what a pint is, because he only knows what liters are. And then I was thinking, oh, maybe this guy's from another country, but in reality, he was actually from the previous generation, like previous generation, however long ago it was. And he was complaining to the bartender saying, I don't want a liter because a liter is too big, and I don't want what's it called, a half liter, because that was the only two sizes available, because a half liter is not enough, and also that the full liter is too expensive. So Winston goes up to the old man, sits next to him or something, and then the old man was saying, oh man, this guy couldn't even give me a pint, and a pint is like an eighth of a gallon. They did the math in there. And then what's it called, yeah, he goes up to him, and then the old man starts talking about how disappointed he is that he couldn't get a pint of his beer, or I forgot what he called it, a wallop. He said that's what they used to call it back in the day. And that he yeah, he wanted to get a pint, but he couldn't get one, so he started complaining. And then Winston uses that to ask, oh, how was life before the revolution, when they used to use pints, I guess, before they started using liters. So yeah, Winston uses that to weasel his way into talking about the man's youth. And then Winston shares what he learned from the history books with the old man, like about the capitalists, their top hats, which he thought was like, oh, I haven't heard that word in so long. I haven't worn a top hat since his sister-in-law's funeral, which was like 50 years prior. Then Winston's really like, oh, I can really learn about things from this guy. Then he continues talking, and then he mentions something about the capitalists and their lackeys, and asks if it was true that what's it called, the capitalists could just like push you over wherever they wanted to, and just disregard any other life that isn't in their social class. Essentially, that's what he said. And then the old man's, I think he's getting drunk at this point because Winston went and got him another two half liters. And then he says the old man forgot about his main complaint being that it would make him need to pee and that is too expensive. Well, I guess Winston paid, but he just forgot about that. But he was drinking a lot. And then he wasn't really answering any of Winston's questions. And he was just remembering some super specific details about things that are unimportant to Winston. So it was a pretty fruitless conversation for him. And then he kind of just he kind of continues to probe to find out the truth about the claims of the history books, and then in the end he just puts it out clearly. Was life better before the revolution or after the revolution? But then the man just thinks, oh, he's talking about, do I enjoy my old age more than I enjoyed being young? And he's like, oh, well, there's certain things like your body is more fit when you're younger and all these other reasons. But me personally, I wouldn't want to go back for, I can't remember what reason he said, but Winston just gave up after that because the man was clearly not answering any of his questions. I thought they were going to get somewhere with that. I was like on the edge of my seat, just like waiting. I was reading and waiting. I was like, is he going to say? But then, nope. He even worded it weird. He was like, I know what you expect me to say, which is that life was better back then. And I thought he was going to be talking about because of the revolution and how the revolution ruined their life. But no, he was like, yeah, but I would not go back to my youth because wisdom or something. I can't really remember. But anyways, after that, Winston just leaves. And then he finds himself at the same junk shop, the stationery shop, where he bought his diary and where he bought his pen and stuff like that. And then he starts talking to the shopkeeper. And then he finds like some like, he was on his way to see this clock on the wall, but then he sees something shiny in the corner of his eye. It was like a little hemisphere of glass with a little piece of coral on the inside. And then the old man was saying about how it must have been made like over 100 years before, like 100 years prior, and it would have been very valuable beforehand. And it was just like something, Winston notes that it's something that would have been used to, it was a paperweight to keep like papers down and stuff. But the old man was selling it for really cheap, just $4. And then Winston was like, okay, I'll get it. Just kind of because not because it was beautiful or anything, but because it was from a generation past, which he's clearly really interested in. And he notes that the man would have probably sold it for any price because the money, I guess. But he didn't ask for any money back, just got his thing for $4. And I thought this was going to also be some irrelevant point, but it kind of comes in to play later on, nearer to the end of the chapter. And then after that, they go upstairs, and it was like a little attic room living area place, and the shopkeeper says that it was where him and his wife used to live prior to his wife's death, and now he's trying to just get rid of all the furniture in there and like sell everything. And Winston, at the back of his mind, he was thinking about renting out that room for like a couple dollars a week. But I think that's gonna come into play in a later chapter. Maybe if he's like on the run or something, he's gonna try hiding in there. And he also mentions under his breath, but the shopkeeper heard him saying about how there's no telescreen in that room. And then the shopkeeper was like, yeah, I never had enough money for that, and also I don't really see the need of having it, especially because he's also in the Prole district as well, right? So they're not really interested in that type of stuff. So yeah, he had that at the back of his mind, but decided against it, and then sees a painting of like some old church, which happens to be a burnt down building right now, or a building that was bombed. And then he was like, oh, I recognize that. And he was saying I was in the Victory Plaza or something, I think. And how that was the next one. But The church was now bombed, and then it was they keep talking about churches, like the buildings, and that one that got bombed was called St. Clement's, and then the old man teaches, not the old man, the shopkeeper teaches Winston a rhyme that they used to use to memorize all the names of the churches in London. And the shopkeeper also says that they used to have a lot more. And this one called St. Clement has the rhyme, oranges and lemons say the bells of St. Clement's. And he says that he doesn't remember anything else, but then later on he remembers the next one being, um, you owe me 3 farthings or farthings, says the bells of St. Martin's. I assume that's supposed to rhyme. I just don't think I'm pronouncing farthings correctly. But that's another one. Then he's at the back of his mind thinking, oh, he wants to go back later on, not anytime soon, so he doesn't like accumulate suspicion. But like a month later, he wants to go back to see if he can like extract the information about the names of the churches from the shopkeeper. And some of the things that they were saying about the churches is that the one, St. Martin's, was turned into a museum for propaganda for Big Brother, and that one's in Victory Plaza. And then they were also talking about some older infrastructure and how he can't really tell what era a building was built in unless it's post-revolution, because if it's post-revolution they're going to be like super grandiose and like big and modern. But then if they're pre-revolution, the government just says, oh, they're from the Middle Ages, or they're from the time of the capitalists, and they gave nothing of value, they produced nothing of value, they were worthless buildings. And well, obviously that's not true, but that's just what the Big Brother wants them to believe. And yeah, so that's so far the only parts of the rhyme that he knows, the St. Clement's and the St. Martin's. And he wants to learn more about it, so that's why he has his plan to return later on. But this is especially where it got super interesting. Winston was like humming the song, walking out, and keep in mind he has his blue overalls on, but he doesn't want to get caught by the patrols, and he doesn't. But who he does get caught by is the same woman who was like in the cafeteria nearby, who he suspected of spying on him. He walks out and he's humming, and he's like halfway through, then it just like there's a line in the text, and I'm like, oh, whenever I'm watching a show with subtitles and I see there's a line, I know something's about to happen, because they just stop suddenly. And she was there, and then he just gets frozen in his tracks, and he's like, and then she just walks by him, and then he's like, oh no, in his mind obviously he's like, oh no, this is like irrefutable proof that she's a spy, because they're in a district far away from where any of the party members live, and he's on a back street, not even a main street, and he's on some back road, and then she just happens to be there. And then he's thinking about how suspicious this is, because remember, even if he's innocent, if he just has the wrong look, it's bad. So he has to make sure he has the right facial expression. And he kept saying throughout the chapter, there's no explicit rule against this, there's no explicit rule against that, but if it's even somewhat conspicuous, then he could get in trouble nonetheless. And he wasn't caught by any patrol or by the thought police, but he was being spied on, and then he's worried. And then this is where the little glass thing comes into mind. Because he has like some injury or some illness, he can't really run fast, and all he's thinking about is going home. But he's thinking, oh no, maybe I should take the thing out of his pocket and then lure her to like some back alley and then just smash her on the head with it to like take her out like that. And I was thinking, that's a terrible idea, because what if there's someone following her who's following him, and then he's just gonna get caught, and then like what then? So yeah, she's just gallivanting in the same back street as him in a district so far away from the party members' living area, and then he thinks, yeah, he's in trouble now, and then he doesn't get back home until 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock it said. So this whole chapter took place over the course of 2 hours from the time it started when he was in the area with the bomb to the time it ended when he got back home. That was 2 hours that took place, and then he was worried. He's like sweating, and he's thinking, if anything's gonna happen to me, if I got caught, just being suspicious, even if he didn't do anything illegal. It's at night when the thought police come for you and when they take you away. And he was thinking it'd be better if he could just die right away, and then if they just killed him right away, he thought that better than if they didn't, because he knew he'd die either way if he gets caught. But he's just afraid of the torture methods, which no one ever talks about because I guess it's some taboo. So that's where the chapter ends off, and that's why I think it's a cliffhanger, because he could be fine. Like, we don't know if the thought police are coming or not. He just assumes that they might be because the same girl was there. She might not even be a spy. What if he's wrong? We don't know. I don't know. Maybe you know. Maybe you read the book already. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe she's not a spy. Maybe she's on his side. I assume nothing bad's gonna happen to him right away. I hope he doesn't get tortured or anything, because it's still the first part just finished, but that was a really good way to end the first part. But yeah, there's no way something bad's gonna happen to him this early on. There's still like 2/3 of the book left. So yeah, that was I think that was my favorite chapter so far, even though I had other ideas going into it. I thought, actually, I don't know what I was thinking was gonna happen, but the first couple pages was kind of like mundane, but once it all came together, I was like, wow, this is like, I think it was really good. So yeah, I'm thinking soon maybe he's gonna offer the shopkeeper to stay in the attic, because he might want a place to stay with no telescreen away from where the government would easily find him. Although he'd still have to what's it called? He'd still have to find a way to actually, no, it wouldn't even matter if he found a way to sneak into the place, because he works for the government anyways. So yeah, I don't know. It's fun to theorize though, but yeah, I hope nothing bad happens to him. With that, I think I'm done. I'm done with this review for this chapter. That was really good. I'll try to get the next one out as soon as possible. Probably won't be that soon if I'm being honest, but within a month, maybe. Within a month. It was a good place to end off. Maybe I'll take a little break from it, but a good place to end off at the end of that chapter. That was a big chapter. And actually, I'll do some little predictions for next time. So, I honestly think that she is a spy, but if she's not, I don't know what kind of character she would be. But yeah, I think the thought police is gonna come to him, but not overnight. And I think that maybe he'll lose his job or something. Maybe he's gonna become one of the proles and it's gonna be banished outside of the regular society. He'll be like on a mini exile or something. Other than that, I don't really know what could happen. Yeah. Anyways, thanks for watching. Like it if you like this video. Leave a comment if you so desire to. And yeah.